Chicken noodle soup. Those three words evoke such different emotions for all of us. There's something about a deep bone broth mixed with a sparse amount of vegetables and lots of noodles to slurp away until your heart is content that just screams comfort. It seems to cure all ailments. But it doesn't always have to be the same dish all the time. Today we are making a really quick chicken ramen and a chicken udon noodle soup. Making your own stock seems like a pretty extra tedious step to take, and I get it because most pre-made stocks or broth that you can find in the supermarket are actually not too bad when it comes to things that are already pre-processed. But once you make it at home, you'll just realize how much better it actually is, and you can also use just any scraps of vegetables and chicken or meat and bones that you might have lying around. But the thing for me that really convinces me to make my own stock at home is that most pre-made stocks or broths are actually pre-seasoned and already have quite a bit of sodium in them. When I make soups, I like to season very last minute because it is a high volume dish usually that you're cooking. There's a lot of it. So the stock I'm gonna show you today has no salt at all because we're only gonna season it once it's combined with the other ingredients that make the soup. I suggest that you start your stock the day before and that you make it in bulk. You need to start with chicken bones and some fat. I like to use chicken wings for this. You can also just break down a whole dressed chicken, debone most of it, keep the fat and skin intact, and just use that and the bones for the stock. Place your selection on a roasting tray, drizzle with olive oil, and this goes into the oven for 45 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. I leave a little bit of meat still on, which makes this closer to a broth and will actually develop an almost milky color. For our vegetables, just slice up a carrot, some celery, spring onions, and a white onion. All of this goes into a large stock pot. Alternatively, you can fry these off for a few minutes with some olive oil, just until soft and nice and golden. When your chicken carcass is pretty much done roasting, place everything into the same pot and cover it with boiling water. You want the water to be about 3 inches over the chicken because this is going to reduce greatly in volume. Bring to a boil, then a low simmer for about 3 hours, skimming the top as scum comes up. When done, just strain. Let this cool completely, and you can basically keep this in the freezer for a couple of months. Our noodle soup will be closer to a classic chicken noodle soup, whatever that means. Our base ingredients are going to be some diced up onions, celery, and carrots. I also like to have some herbs in here, so I just put them in the bag so that they don't go all over the place. I'm using some parsley and some sage. For our chicken, I'm going to be using some boneless chicken thighs with their skin on. We're going to be using this for the udon bowl and also the ramen later. This is going to be like a braised chicken of sorts. So start your thighs skin side down in some olive oil in a medium to low heat pan. Once you have a nice brown crust, maybe around 8 minutes, flip it and then just add some of your chicken broth to the pan until it reaches about halfway of the chicken thighs. Add some ginger slices as well and any aromatics that tickle your fancy. This is going to simmer gently until the thighs are cooked, so about 10 minutes more. Don't throw away the leftover broth here, we're going to use this for the ramen later. In a medium hot pan, add some extra virgin olive oil and saute your diced vegetables for about 5 minutes. Once they're all nice and tender, add as much chicken broth as you need for your bowl and bring this all to a simmer. Add your udon noodles if you have the pre-cooked ones. If you have the raw, dry ones, make sure to cook them before adding them to the soup. Only at this point will you season everything with some salt and pepper, tasting as you go. Plate, top with chili sesame oil and some sliced spring onions.
So this is pretty much it. You can basically eat it just like this if you want. If you want to add the chicken part to the chicken noodle soup, well, it's already chicken stock. But if you want chicken meat, then you can go ahead and just slice the chicken that we have and then add that in there, which I'll do right now. You can see that meat is perfectly cooked and that skin is still actually crunchy. So the trick is to really just put a little bit of broth so that you're not causing too much steam to kind of moisten down that skin. It's just a faster way of doing it, or else you'd have to kind of like remove the skin, put that in the oven, dry it out. It'd be a whole other process. It really makes such a huge difference when you make a stock from scratch. And I love the udon noodles. And I was going with a different style than your traditional chicken noodle soup, obviously because I'm using udon noodles, but I also like to give a little bit of color to my onions, celery, and carrots, which most people, when you have a really kind of like white looking chicken noodle soup, you don't have kind of like that color. I find that it just brings out a bit more flavor from the vegetables. You should definitely try this dish.
For our ramen, highly suggest you start this the day before. We're gonna be making a quick mushroom broth, so just take out a jar and fill it up with some dried shiitake mushrooms. I'm using some sliced ones here, but if you can find some whole dried shiitake mushrooms, that's much better. Top it all off with some cold water, and this goes in the fridge overnight. The next day, you will squeeze the mushrooms and strain out the liquid from them. For our ramen egg, take a cold egg and plunge it in boiling water for about 6 minutes and 15 seconds. This is how I like to cook my eggs. When time is up, plunge this in an ice bath and leave it there for about 5 minutes. Mix together equal amounts of mirin, soy sauce, and water. Peel your eggs. I always make sure to make more than one just to check if it's cooked properly. It's also a really tasty snack. When peeled, add the whole egg to the mix, and this goes in the fridge overnight for at least 4 hours. The longer you leave it, the richer the color and flavor. Bring to a boil your chicken stock and add the same amount of mushroom broth in there. Bring this to simmer and season with some soy sauce and some sake. Again, this is very subjective, so it's really up to you how much you want to add. So just start with 1 teaspoon of each, and then keep checking and tasting until you've achieved the flavor that you want to eat. Cook your ramen noodles in some boiling water. Make sure you strain the noodles right before putting them in your bowl. But before that, stop everything. To get this really closer to a real ramen, it's really important that you add a teaspoon of pork lard in the bowl first. Fat or oils are always added to ramen broths right before serving. So top this with your noodles, broth, chopped chicken, spring onions, and finally, your beautiful ramen egg.
This to me looks pretty legit. The shiitake mushroom that we added right at the end really comes through nicely. It just adds so much depth of flavor. Obviously, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I just think it's a little touch that makes it slightly more Japanese in terms of what it tastes like. I'm a sucker for soy marinated eggs, and these look so good. Such a well-balanced soup, and it feels hearty. It feels healthy, even though this is a lot of noodles. You can always reduce the amount of noodles that are in there to make it slightly healthier. But at its core, compared to a lot of ramens you'll buy, it has much less salt because you control that by adding the salt, which is the soy sauce and the tare, right at the end part. The lard that I added is really key. Like, it's so important to give you that oily mouthfeel that you're so used to. That was it, 3 recipes, how to make your own stock really quickly, a nice little quick chicken ramen, and then an udon chicken noodle soup. I hope you guys enjoyed those recipes. If you wanna see more, just comment down below what kind of other soups you want me to make, and we'll try to make them on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.